Strata really excited to introduce the Nordic Curl by Athlete Freak. This machine is a 6-in-1 machine, and essentially we have a lot of different options that allow you to do all sorts of different exercises. First exercise with this is we're actually looking at the Nordic Curl. The Nordic Curl is a hamstring exercise that you see a lot of professional athletes do. The nice thing about this machine is at the 45-degree angle, we can actually raise it up and decrease how much torque there is through the back of your leg. So if you see the machine set up and it has the pad like this and the pads up here, this is a perfect place to start and a great way to actually start working on eccentric hamstring curls. If you want to make it harder, you can lower it. And so this is the biggest challenge with this exercise machine, but also the most powerful feature is all the different adjustments underneath here. The green knob is what will lower the angle of this pad to make the Nordic curl harder if you want to use that exercise, which will be a part of another exercise we do in a moment. So if you're looking down here and you want to try and lower this to actually do this exercise, you pull the green pop pin out and this will lower it down to as low as you want. The nice thing you'll notice if you start experimenting with this machine is down where the colored knobs are, there's actually angles wrote. So you can actually see exactly what angle you're doing. So if you're working on progressions, you can actually go right to that exact location and make sure you're working from the same spot. There are ways to make this exercise even harder, but I would encourage you not to worry about that and ask your trainer in here if you want to make it more challenging. The other nice feature is if you have larger ankles, large shoes or smaller shoes, the actual ankle pad here goes in and out, so it telescopes in and out to accommodate any person's size. The other thing that's great about this is we didn't get it for the Nordic curl features. We actually got it for the back extension feature. So what's cool is this common pad associated with Nordic curl machines, if you take the yellow knob and you release it, the entire mid pad comes right out and allows the exercise machine to be used for back extension, just like many other machines you've seen in here and probably other gyms. The unique thing about this back extension is, again, we have all the variability of which angle we're going to be performing it at. 45 degrees is the angle that most commercial gyms are at, but here I can lower it all the way down to being parallel to the ground. That looks risky. Just wait 1 second, you'll see why. Or have it at 45 degrees. The other advantage of this machine compared to other back extension benches is how long this telescopes up. The red knob will actually telescope up and down the pads that'll go against your hips. And it's easily just basically untwist it, pull it out, and this will slide up and down fairly easily. If you're new to this machine, you'll find that there are handles and areas to pull on the machine to make it extremely accessible. The other thing as well too is if you look at the actual pads across here, there's a gap in the middle here. It depends on you, but if you like the gap in between, great. There are red knobs on the front of these pads that you can release to pull that in to get rid of the spacing if you want to do an exercise like lateral flexion or something else, or you just don't like the space, and so it closes in the gap as tight as you can. We tend to leave it open, just works for most demographics. Now, we've got 2 exercises so far. We have the Nordic curl, common athletic exercise, the back extension exercise, which just again to clarify if you're unfamiliar with that exercise, hooking your feet in here, lowering yourself down and coming back up. The nice thing about this feature here, how long this gets, is a lot of our taller clients will actually be able to use this. Now, if I take this knob, I can actually bring this down really low and actually have it below my hip to turn it into a very hamstring dominant, glute dominant back extension exercise. Ultimately, which exercise is best for you? I'd encourage you to experiment with this machine or talk to your trainer in the gym at Strata Internal Performance to see which one works best for you. 2 exercises. Now, the next thing that we can do is we can actually take this one pad off and get a variety of exercises down here. So one thing that may be hard to see is there's actually a post down here with a red knob. And I showed you that this pad here was great for a telescoping feature. So now I can actually take this whole pad off, which we're going to put it back. You'll see, very easy, very light to remove. There's a gray pin over here. If I remove the gray pin, this will allow me to take this knob and this post and bring it up. And now I can lock it in with the gray pin. It goes into a new hole. Very easy to find, very smooth. And this pad can go right here. Now, the very cool thing about this is while there are a ton of exercise options that become available based off of this pad, there are 2 that are extremely simple that many of you will probably know. And I'll show you a third one just for fun. One, split squat is a common exercise, which is a lot like a lunge, where you have 1 foot back and 1 foot forward, and you're going up and down. This exercise, the split squat, most people put their foot on a bench. You can easily do the exact same exercise with your ankle up here, coming up and down. If you've ever had issues with your toes, toe arthritis, or you just like the support of your ankle on a bench, this is a very good exercise. Number 2, you can do glute bridges on this, single or 2 legs. It's very stable, very easily, lifting your hips up and down. It moves a little, but it ultimately feels quite stable if you take the red pin and twist it all the way in. The last thing that you can do, I don't know if you've ever had this challenge, is if you're someone who's a push-upper or planker and you've ever had issues with your toes, what a very cool thing is you can actually use this to do push-ups and planks by having your ankles up there and not having your toes being pushed back into that position that otherwise just might not feel very good. Now you got 3 exercises, actually more. Nordic curl, back extension, and split squats and glute bridges. Fantastic. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove this gray pin, remove the telescoping pad here, put it all back to where it was, and you can see here, all very fast and real time. We're gonna put this back, and now we're gonna actually look at a few more exercises, 2 more. Now, as I mentioned to you, what I want you to be careful of, don't pinch your finger, that was a close call for me. As I showed you, the green knob lowers this thing up and down. The other thing that we can do is we can raise it all the way up to do more advanced abdominal exercises, more advanced lower back exercises, and something called the reverse hyper, which I'm really excited about. So if you want to change the angle of this thing to work on these exercises, we're going to stay at 45 degrees. On the back end, behind the machine, there's a gray knob, red knob rather, underneath here, that'll release this, that allows this part of the machine to raise up. Once it clicks in, now you can already see we've got a variety of new angles that we can play with, already a bunch. But for our sake of this next exercise, we're going to take the blue knob, I'm going to pull that out, and now this entire thing is actually parallel to the ground. Now this looks a little crazy, I will admit, but we can take one exercise we've already done, the back extension, or what some people call a GHD, and we can do the same exercise here. Now, one thing that's interesting, that's much harder, I should say, there are these gray foot pegs here. You can put these out that are magnetically attached, so you can put your foot on it and then climb all the way up. So what I'm gonna do, I'll use the handles, I'll put my feet in nice and tight, hook them in, get locked in on the pad, and now I'm doing back extensions, or GHDs, in a totally different way with a totally different profile, which is very cool. Another version of the exact same exercise is taking the same setting in an abdominal exercise at a pretty advanced level, stepping up, taking my time, sitting, making sure everything is sturdy, hooking my feet in, and I can do an abdominal exercise here where I lean all the way back and come back up. You can start to see that your imagination will be the greatest limitation of what exercises you can do with this, because ultimately we could do side bends, torso rotation, a lot of exercises. But let's call that exercise number 4, GHDs and advanced abdominal exercises. Very cool. The really unique feature is this exercise has something that in the powerlifting world, bear with me, is called the reverse hyper. It was popularized by a power lifter who uses this exercise to help with powerlifters' lower back strength, but has actually become a very unique exercise to help with lower back stability and endurance. So all I've done is I have this all the way up. I've used the green knob and the blue knob to bring it up to being parallel. I've taken the red knob and I've brought it up to position 12, which is the longest position it can go to. You'll see a hole here. And then now what I'm gonna do is lean my hips against it, and there are handles on both sides of the foot plate, and hold on to it. So I'm coming down, holding on tight, and raising my legs up and coming back down. Fantastic lower back and glute exercise. You have a lot of different ways you can do it with your feet together, one leg at a time. You can frankly just do isometrics, holding yourself up there. I mean, again, the real limitations are gonna come with that of your creativity with this exercise, which is super cool. The last exercise that I'll demonstrate here really quickly is an abdominal exercise. So we already have in this gym a decline bench, but the nice thing about this is, again, I already showed you that kind of advanced abdominal exercise. We can make it a decline bench just like a regular gym. So what I'm gonna do now, I should say a regular gym with a lot of versatility. I'm gonna put this pad back in, which if you're trying to do this, by the way, there's a vertical slot here that goes right into the hole. Perfectly, you'll see exactly where it goes, as long as it's extended all the way. We're gonna tighten the yellow knob to make sure it's tight as possible. One very cool accessory that has come with this is this Velcro attaching pad that you can do a lot of really cool creative things with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it around where I think my knees are going to go, wrap it around vertically underneath, and now, as I mentioned, decline crunches. I'm going to lower this thing down to an angle kind of like so, just similar to a decline crunch, and then I'm going to pop up there and get myself organized to do decline crunches. Get my knees positioned, feet in, and now we have our sixth exercise, which is a really good feeling decline crunch. The great thing about this machine is, again, its versatility is really of your creativity. And the great thing about all our trainers at Strata Internal Performance is they're extremely creative at figuring out solutions, exercise-based solutions, to help you solve your problems. So I would encourage you, if you're a member here or you're someone who has time, come in and experiment with this machine. Practice pulling different knobs to find out which exercise is best for you. The only thing I'll throw out there as a caveat is they do have twist pin locks. So what I mean by that, if you're not familiar, most gyms will have a pull pin that pops back in from a spring. So right now, if I take the screen pin and I pull it out, you can kind of hear, listen, it locks in automatically. All of these knobs, because there's so many features, actually have a screw home mechanism. So if I take it and I tighten it up and screw it in, now it won't be pulled out at all, which adds a little extra security. But if you ever pull in a knob and it's not coming out, try to make sure you're lefty-loosey. Try and loosen it up all the way before you pull it out to try and adjust it. Ultimately, I have to say, if you know me, you know that I've invested into a lot of equipment into this gym to help you have a good exercise experience. I would say that of every machine I've put $1 into, unbiasedly, this machine, I mean, I wish I invented it, to be quite honest, because it's so powerful and so unique that it really gives you a ton of really unique options. The thing about this, I might have got it stuck now playing with it. Oh, there we go. The thing about this machine, you can do anything with it. As I mentioned, a few of my members have actually bought it for their home gym. And when I have enough space in my new home, I will have one there as well too. Because the very cool thing is you can use all these handles for supports. The last thing I'll leave you with here is if you're experimenting with this machine and you have any concerns of security, you will see that there are 2-inch pegs around the machine, one on the butt of the machine and 2 down here that allow for additional security. So very quickly, as an example, if I'm trying to do an abdominal exercise and I'm concerned about losing stability, I can put this weight plate here that'll make it a bit heavier to make sure it won't topple over. Now that being said, I'm 180 pounds and I throw a lot of weight around on this, and I've done it with no support and I've had absolutely no issues. The only time I've added additional weight is when I'm being creative with it around the facility. In any event, this is Brandon from Strata. As you know, our entire team here is committed to helping you have a great exercise experience. This is just one of those exercises I think is game-changing. If you have any questions, ask me or any of the trainers in here. And if you're one of our lucky members, please come and give it a shot. Experiment with it because, again, it is crazy powerful. I will have a second one as soon as I have enough space for it. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. While you're exercising pain-free, I'll talk to you soon.